Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show, Kickin' It. I'm your host, Rob. With me, as usual, is the real RDV. I'm broadcasting to you live from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, in the ghetto, in the slums, where streets of fire are burning, and we have all sorts of gunshots and helicopters, Chopper City. I've got Daisy and Max, my German Shepherds, patrolling the grounds. But, Doctor, I've got to sit there and say, anybody tries to come on my couple-acre campus here, hidden, around a lake, they're going to have some issues because I, like the 80s, have discovered what the secret of staying alive is in the ghetto. You know what that is, Doctor?
Staying alive in the ghetto? Well, not really, because we're supposed to talk
the
about
answer is ninjas. I have multiple ninjas on property and multiple camps of ninjas because tonight's movie is very appropriate to discussing that, and it's 1981's canon classic that started the ninja craze in the United States and in the 80s, something we all need to be thankful for, a historically significant and important piece of filmmaking history. Thank you, Canon and Franco Nero, and of course, let's not forget Sho Kosugi, who we're going to be talking about. It's 1981's Enter the Ninja. Doctor, you've never seen this before, and you just watched it. Initial impressions, gut level, give it to me.
Initial impressions, this could have been a Chuck Norris movie.
It could very well have been.
But for some reason, they didn't ask him. Instead, they were trying to get actual, at the time, Matt Stone, who was basically a professional ninjutsu and all that stuff, martial artist. So, which I think, I think that instead of having him be the main actor, they ended up him just being the choreographer. And I gotta say, this movie from beginning to end, holy crap, is it awesome! There are one-liners in this, and I think this movie is underrated.
Yep.
Like, this is a hidden gem. I never knew this even existed. Just like this movie's from the early 1980s. A lot of them are buried. If you can find them, you'll find them at like a thrift store and VHS. If you can find them.
And the thing too is a little bit of a history lesson as people start to pile in here as the signal just went out to everybody. I see that we've got Flashman and Flash. If you haven't seen this, man, get on it. So tonight, with Englatine from My Life Comics on Top 10 Tuesdays, what we're going to be doing is Top 10 movie sequels. And so for me, when I was compiling my list, I came up with a movie that may be on the list, and it's related to a ninja movie, let's just say, okay? So I know that a while ago, last summer, Doctor, you and I were starting to, on Kicking It, do the Chuck Norris movies because you hadn't seen a lot of them. You'd seen some of them. And we talked about the Chuck Norris template. We talked about the juicy tracksuits he wore, which to me, this movie, Enter the Ninja's got tracksuits, it's got random peasant beatings, it's got multiple cockfights, it's got, lots of non-PC stuff, just gallons of gore and buckets in a really cheesy manner. It's got every single ninja thing in it. But again, I'm kind of jokingly talking a little bit more about the historical significance of this film rather than the film itself from my perspective as we go through it. So in the late 70s, early 80s, in the 70s, you had the martial arts craze that kind of came over the States. You, of course, had movies being made by Shaw Brothers, Harvest Films and all that stuff over in Hong Kong, China area. And we'd see some of that stuff on Kung Fu Theater here in Central Florida. But the interesting thing was when Bruce Lee passed, he was the idea behind, say, Kung Fu, which with David Carradine, which is a great show. It explored the mystical, philosophical leanings of a different way of looking at the world as opposed to, say, purely Western ideology. That being said, with all these big fancy words, one thing that was not very prevalent was the whole idea of ninjas. I think for me, the first movie that really dealt with ninjas a lot, although I didn't see it until after this film, was not even Octagon by Chuck Norris a year earlier, which is a badass film that we covered. But it was actually a You Only Live Twice James Bond movie that it had ninja on the screen. So to me, HBO being one of the few paid channels at the time you could get, once I got that, this movie was the one that was on. Everybody in school saw this. And they'd be like, hey, have you seen this movie, Enter the Ninja? No, what's a ninja? Oh, it's that special guy that dresses in black that's got all these funky weapons. They're all farmer's tools. And here's the thing. Everybody knows that loves film, especially 80s films, recognizes John Carpenter's fight scene in They Live with Roddy Piper and Keith David goes on, let's say, 15 minutes, right? It's supposed to be the longest on-fight sequence there is, and it's a great gag. They do a lot of wrestling moves. It's really violent. South Park, I think, did a shot-for-shot remake. Before that, I think a Western inspired Carpenter. The opening sequence to this movie, Enter the Ninja, is literally 10 minutes of everything you could ever desire in ninjas.
It was more than that.
You've got your smoke grenades, you've got your shurikens, you've got your bows, you've got people jumping down from trees. You've got it's just awesome. They don't even save it for the end. They give it to you at the beginning.
Yeah, it's actually 9 and 10 minutes. It's 15 minutes. I was counting it. I was watching through it, and it's like, yes, it's basically one guy, and in a white costume. Maybe I'm like, well, how do you get a hideout in the woods, in a bright white, and there's the bad guys that have like, I don't know, have like bright red, and then like then there's one guy who he's the black ninja.
Yeah,
so,
white ninja versus black ninja.
And I gotta say that there's symbolism to that as you get through the movie within the white and the black. Because white usually means pure, black is usually means like evil, like yin yang,
Yes.
So like I said, it starts off like straight with like ninjas, like and like they're and he's like it's not like like because when you first see this, you're like, okay, he's killing some of them, somebody knocking out, and I love the sound effects. So you get the cheesy sound effects when he hits guns. So it's like the rich. it's like
yeah.
It's like they didn't know. Like, I love like the early ninja. Like, they basically went off the Hong Kong productions with Jackie Chan. The sound effects they use.
Yes,
Americans copied that. So anyway, so they're going through this, and then you find out like the guy, he fights his way through and everything. And even the black ninja tries to beat him up, but he makes it into the little town, the little village. And he gets in there, and then like he like basically what it was. The whole thing was like he basically like was passing a test. It was his final graduation from the ninja course, and he succeeds. But there's one guy, the black ninja,
Sho Kosugi's character. Yes.
Yeah, he hates him because it's a white man who came there to the Philippines, and like he's like, this guy is an embarrassment. I come from a powerful samurai family, blah blah blah. And the dude's like, and the old man's like, shut up. And he passed the test. He proved that it's like, you don't like it, shut up.
He's like, yeah, stop it, you whiny little bitch. Let them come in and culturally appropriate and take it over to the United States. I'm gonna die here, and I'm happy with it.
And I gotta say, this reminds you of the Octagon. Is the same damn thing.
That's exactly right. It's the bad brother, whether it's adopted or in spirit only. You're absolutely right. So, yeah, Haosaga, Sho Kosugi's character, is somebody we don't see a lot. We see him early and we see him late. We don't see a lot of him, so that's kind of cool. But the whole movie, Cole is the name of the character, is played by a guy named Franco Nero. So let me talk about Franco Nero for a moment. When we're watching films back then in the 70s and 80s, unless it was a foreign film that was really, really super popular, you didn't really see a lot of outside American movies. We saw some Canadian stuff. We've seen a few things, but we didn't see Mexican. We've seen very few European ones, unless they were art house films, which are still hard to come by. And because they're artsy, they didn't have a big audience, so they may not have come around too much. But Franco Nero he's Italian. He plays this as an Italian. He's got this great steely look to his face. He's very hairy. He's got that very 70-ish kind of vibe, the way he's dressed. It's transitioning from the big collars to the not so big collars and everything. And it's filmed on location, but the guy's got screen presence. He's done a lot of stuff. I don't think he was horrible in this role. Now, obviously, he's not doing a lot of the fighting, but you don't need to when you have what I think to be decent ninja choreography that's not all Jason Bourne to death, where you can see some of the stuff. And yes, we know it's probably not the best special effects, but it's not CGI. I don't know that there was any wires used because this is an extremely low budget film, and this is what Canon did. Canon was not doing well financially, so they went to the micro budget model. And so Franco Nero, all he'd have to do is just zoom into his eyes as he's looking around, and he's got this intense steely gaze, and you're like, okay, I'm buying what he's selling. And like I say, everything in this opening bit with ninja stuff you can ask for, not just the weapons, but all the little hand gestures that mean stuff and all that, which of course is going to come back at the end. It's a beautiful setup. And so he passes the test. They have some philosophy discussions, and he's going to go meet his boy that he was in the war with, and who's got like this small, farm, near a small town or whatever, which is what you had mentioned. So it's a very simple setup. There's nothing complicated to it. The only thing is the evil corporation with the weird, boss levels want to come take it. So we know what this template is, and it's perfect. It's absolutely an incredibly wonderful, fun, not even goofy. It's just a fun action movie that's not too serious, but just done good enough. So yeah, I can't stop gushing about it. So for you, what stands out when he meets his buddy and his buddy's wife? What's going on?
It's this whole movie, dude, is insane. Like, it's from straight to business. Obviously, he leaves, he goes back, he's with his buddy, and people are basically like, it's a land grab thing. The main bad guy in there is he's from in Harm's Way. He's a friend of John Wayne, and this guy's been in some other movies. What was his name? Christopher George plays this rich American tycoon, like his name played by Charles Venarius. Yeah, Venarius is what he says, and he's like. And there's this little guy, little dweeb. It's like he's like the horrible like reject for Indiana Jones, like the German villain. He's like
he's got the hook hand and he talks funny, so it kind of almost reminds you of Quasimodo.
more like Harlem Zola from Captain America.
Well, for those who would get the reference, which is not me, but I know a lot of people in our audience would.
Yes. He's the little sidekick, like the Igor to Red Skull. He's like a little scientist. Anyway, this guy is like, he's sent there to basically because he wants to he's like, you're gonna give me the land, or we're gonna beat you up. They got this tall big guy, and here comes Frank Nero character. He's just like. It's like Billy Jack. He just takes him down within a second. I think at first I thought he killed him because there was a lot of neck chops. I
popped when he's taking them all down. Right, they're at that little crappy, 2-street town, and he's there, and he's having a fun time, calling out all those moves as he's doing all these handstand kicks and all this kind of flippy floppity stuff. It's really kind of funny to me, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell he's saying half the time, but I know it's some of those fancy words that he was using with his hand gestures, and it's like he's calling out the kata for him, and it's just incredible, and there's enough of the action where you get the blood and guts that you want, but it's not a gore fest like a horror movie. You get the obvious shuriken sound, and then you see the guy kind of holding it in his eye with the big bloody socket or something, because there's a lot of shuriken in this film. Actually, now that I think about it, without measuring it, this film probably has more shurikens in it than every other martial artist movie put together. Just throwing that out there for the hardcores that might know something.
And it was hilarious. Like in the beginning though, like the one jealous brother or whatever it was, or the Black Ninja, when they're during the training thing, he threw the ninja stars, but he threw them away because where the main guy wasn't even over there. I thought that was that's gonna be a mistake. Anyway, but this movie has a hot blonde, it has a lot of ninjas, and it has a lot of cockfights. Oh my god! I couldn't believe how I was like, okay, there's one. Okay, they were like, come on, everybody! So basically, his buddy Frank, he has a little land, that the main bad guy wants, but he has all these workers working for him, and they're high past time. It's like, come on, everybody, grab the chicken, let's have a cockfight over here, and everybody's going crazy. It's like. Apparently in the Philippines, that must be their favorite thing to do. He's like, here, 200 pesos on this. He's like, sure. And everybody's like, I'm like, really? It's like, this is not PETA friendly. Do not show this to anybody in California.
Well, yeah, and at the time, because it's filmed overseas, and I'm not sure exactly what country it came out of and what film regulations they had to go by, but obviously you're watching it going, yeah, if that was on TV today, they would edit that scene out, or both the times they have the cockfight, just because of the violence in it.
They did it twice. They showed the chicken actually getting hurt. I was like, man, it's just so random. It's like, because it's not my culture. I'm sure maybe they do that in Mexico or some other places too. It's like, it's illegal here. Because people are like, well, we're gonna do the dog fight. I think the dog fights are stupid. The chicken fights are all right because it's chicken, man. You're gonna eat it regardless. But I just couldn't believe that they threw that in the movie, and then so after they have all that stuff, basically the more muscle guy, the little dweeb guy with the hook, he's like, I need more money, I need more guys, and he's like, and I love it. He's such a little bitch. He can't even talk. The main guy, Christopher George character, Mr. Valerius, whatever, the tycoon guy. He's like he has a personal assistant who's even more of a English yuppie. He's like, I don't. It's like, and basically the little guy, little dweeb. He's like, he can't even talk to the main guy because the main guy is like, well, he's like, gets upset if he talks to him, so he has to talk direct to the secondhand assistants. So he's even more of a little simp. So in the pushover, it's just like, and the guy is a typical. I mean, he sells it. It's like, what was the other one with I think with Chuck Norris, where they're fighting on the boat?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Norris, I'm going to tear you apart piece by piece. Oh, it's a great scene. Yeah.
Like I said, I got the same vibes. This could have been easily could have been a Chuck Norris movie. The way it's written, the way it's set up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, it's like I said, the action scenes in here are pretty good. People are getting their necks snapped. They're getting stabbed. And then
the one other thing too about the film that you're pointing out that we don't see too much of is, yeah, it has more of a European flair to it than an American flair. Is just as far as their sensibilities and stuff. And for me, you get that because again, you've got really an angle that kind of doesn't get explored, but it's obvious there on screen. Like you say, his buddy coming back from the war, he's got a little bit of PTSD, and he's struggling with it, and he's having some issues in how to deal with it. And his wife, I think she's supposed to be, South, African or something like that, English or whatever. She's supposed to, but she's a very strong woman. So they're not in America, so they're like, they're really independently strong people, but again, they don't really get into it. Like they're not treating this as a deep dive into the horrors of what happens like Rambo, but it's there.
So basically, yeah, like it was her idea. They came to the Philippines and and they got this plantation that was over 200 years old, and apparently there's just believed to be a lot of oil under that land. That's why the main bad guy wants it. So this guy suffered PTSD. He admits he can't get up for his wife. He's been feeling sorry for himself, and then his wife actually just cheats on with his friend because his friend basically has been like this buff macho guy coming in and like defending her, beating up he beat up like 14 guys when they were at the compound.
I don't know how any heterosexual female on a planet, and probably a bunch of curious men, cannot look at Frank Nero swinging the nunchucks yard in his tracksuit topless and not want to drop their panties. I mean, that's kind of what happens here. I'm not making fun of it, but you understand why it's happening because his friend's suffering and can't please his wife. It's kind of weird. They don't get into it too much, but enough. You're like, okay, this is really happening.
I think there's also a reason why she was also easily seduced because he was actually being kinder, paid attention to her. He wasn't constantly drinking like her husband. Her husband was an alcoholic.
He was present in the moment because he did all those little hand gestures about Zen and everything, and he listened. He felt her. Whereas the husband's drinking all the time and blah blah blah. He's not being a jerk. He's not beating on her.
He was emotionally available to her. That's all.
Yeah, whatever. Kind of don't like that angle, but again,
anyway,
they're European. They're a little more open with those things.
So I gotta say that the one-liners in this movie, I can't believe. I was looking up on online to see if anybody actually had quotes for this movie because I was thinking like he actually says like before Arnold even says he's like, "Is this? I'll be back." It's like I thought it was hilarious in there. And then he's another line when at the bar scene where they're going. The wife was in there trying to hire people, and they're afraid because that little dweeb was in there with the hook. They're all scared of it because they're all frightened because they don't want to get harassed. He's in there. He's like, so Frank and the other guy, Cole, which is basically Nero. They went in there at the bar. They'll go see what's going on and stuff. Frank gets a beer. He's like, hey, what's with this? Like, and he's like, and then what's his name? Cole is like, yeah, I just want a lemonade. And he's like, he's like, wow, it's lemonade. They're gonna kill you. He's like, whatever. And the little dweeb guy's like, because he's got the big guy like 6'2" or 6'5" with him. As his bouncer. Like there.
7'3".
Or I'm sorry, 7'3". Anyway,
he's tall, really tall.
Anyway, so he's like, nobody wants to work for you. It's like, he's like, you're not gonna find anybody. And then he goes over to like Cole. He's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just enjoying my lemonade. He's like, you want to work for me? He's like, no. He's like, I just want to have my lemonade. And like he basically like Cole gets up. This is basically this would be a Chuck Norris move too. He accidentally spills his lemonade on the guy purposely. Tries to wait off as an accident. And then,
It's the Jackie Chan scene.
I love it. and he's like, what is that hook, like stainless steel? He's just makes fun of him and everything. So and then he's the guy, the German guy tries to hit him, and he just grabs the hook, throws it into the post. He's like, hang around for a bit. He's like, come on, guys, let's just talk. He's like, he's got to the goons are gonna hit him. He says, he basically killed the one guy. He's like, oh, I try to talk, try to be peaceful, And he's just like killing people. I'm like, where are the police? The one thing I couldn't understand, where are the authorities? Where's the police in this village?
There is none in small towns, bro. It's wild west. It's frontier justice, baby.
It's 1980s. Dude, it's 1980s.
It's in a foreign country that's second world maybe at the time. I'm telling you, there's not much going on there.
In the 80s, I don't believe that. Maybe in the
believe it,
maybe in the early 70s
or not. Anyway, well, I mean, it's a movie. So
yeah, that's a movie. But I thought that was really weird. There's not even one cop, not even a sheriff. They're in the outskirts, but still, it's like once you get in the main town area, though, you would think like because where the guy has his building, the main rich guy, he has hired goons. You'd think so maybe there are no cops, I guess. Anyway, so this movie goes on, and like it's just scene after scene. It's like where he's his buddy ends up getting killed. Frank.
Yep.
And so here comes Cole's, aka Nero. He basically he has this little thing where he's like he's crying. He finds like the little sheds, worker shed, and the animal stuff, huts were all burned down with his friend's complex. And then and at first I'm like, wait, did they? Because it turns out the person that killed him, he doesn't know this, but the person that killed his best friend is the Black Ninja. The Black
Sho
Ninja was hired because I love that the main sign, like Mr. Christopher George earlier. So he's like, a ninja, you guys a ninja? I want a ninja. Go get me a ninja. And typical spoiled rich guy. It's like, I want a ninja. Give me like, so go out to go to Japan. He's like, what are you still doing here? Go to Japan, you idiots.
See, even in foreign countries that have different political and economic systems, it just proves that when you have a capitalistic mind, supply and demand ultimately rules the world. And if there's definitely a high demand for the best ninja, and this guy forked over the big bucks because at first he went the cheap route. He was on the dock getting everybody to get hired, and then he took all of them out. So there was like another 20, 30 bad dudes that he took out, right? And so the thing is right before they get up to this big scene, and it's actually the ending sequence I think is pretty good too, because there's a scene where he's walking in town and he's crossing the street and he's being followed, and so he kind of hides around the corner and you see the guy who's following him crossing the street and coming over. But what's so totally out of place to this movie, and that's why it sticks out to me, is it reminds me of like the Charlie Brown the section on the Charlie Brown movies where Charlie Brown's walking with Linus or whoever onto the wall, and the background's moving, and they're playing that wonderful just jazz piano music, because you get this jazz music playing, and then he gets in a chokehold. It says send him a message. He has this cute one-liner, but then when his buddy dies, because he sneaks in to find out, and he gets, of course, the tape on the bad guy. He's finding out the plans in the big bad guy's penthouse. That's when the bad ninja Sho Kosugi is going over, and he's just whacking everybody, and he breaks the dude's arm in the fence. And then in the middle of the night, he's got the woman tied up on the bamboo in the middle of the garden, and he slits her husband's throat right in front of her. I mean, it's kind of dark, and then they just totally raise everything. I mean, it's a cool scene. It's really neat looking. And you're right, Doctor.
I want to go back.
Fight scenes are really entertaining.
I want to go back to the recruit scene, the goons. Here comes this guy. He's not friendly. He's like, "Who are you? I'm the preacher. I'll do I'll do your preaching, whatever you like. No, preaching, no." And the guy and the little German guy comes up with a hook. And he's like, and then because he basically is standing there, and the main guy, the bad guy, he's like, yeah, I want you to, will you kill for me? And he looks at and he motions over to the little German guy, and he's like, and the guy's kind of hesitant. He's like, wait, killing? He'll beat up for money, but like killing, it's like, and I love he's got the classy 80s. He's out there, and this guy has a cut off like tank top with the yellow with the black and stuff.
Oh yeah, it
was like typical 80s, Hong Kong or late 70s. Remember, people still had the pop colors. Nero was cool. He would have the pop color on earlier. The bell bottom pants were still in style, flared. And anyway, so they're in the dock scene. He's like, well, fine. Yeah, I'll kill for you. It's like, it goes up to the German guy to go to kill him, and the little German guy just braces a hook up the guy's balls, pretty much. I was like, and the guy's like, ah, and then you look over, I'm thinking like, where's the blood? There should be blood over his jeans. There's not.
If you listen very carefully, there's a line that if you're watching this, as a male, we go, ooh, and we feel the pain. It's just kind of like the psychic thing we all have. But there is a section in there where he says, you are no longer armadillo. You are anteater. You are now circumcised. Not really, but I'm just making that up.
No.
But yeah, I wasn't expecting. I was like, oh, he hooks the guy in the unit. I'm like, that's not cool. But yeah, those are the disposable,
the little
henchmen.
jokes, little jokes and all stuff. Yes, that's the first. That's the second group of people that Gilly goes to turn, and he still kicks all their asses anyway. So towards the end here, though, basically, yeah. So he has to go rescue his friends. His now deceased friend's wife or widow. And he goes into the building there. The guy's little penthouse suite there. He's all dressed in his white garb. You see that scene of him just sitting there where he burned his friend's body. Give him a burial and stuff. He's doing all the little hand gestures and stuff. He's got the whole knight's white ninja suit on. This guy's armed to the max. This is like, when you see those video games,
Commando has nothing on Franco Nero when it comes to how much weapons this guy has, and I'm not joking.
Is this basically like your RPG games? Do you ever wonder what it would look like if when you're carrying all the weapons? Because usually when you play a game like that, you have like, I have 12 items, and then like only you're walking around, only one shows your back. This is what it looked like in real life. It's like, this is a one-man army with. He's like, I got 5 of these, 5 of that, 5 of this. It's like, holy crap. And I was wondering, like, are they gonna bring in the freaking blow darts in here? Yes, because like they mentioned earlier, they're trained in how assassins how to use with poison. I was like, oh my gosh, you're gonna do the poison thing. He's like, and he does it, the little darts, I love it. So anyway, him and this other guy, army guy, who runs a little shop and all. He's like, and then they go in there, like, the guy's like, hey, you guys want to see something? He opens the jacket up. He's like, I got some like, you got like little nudity pictures of it. The guys, the guards are like, oh yeah, walk in there, and he uses it as a distraction. Basically like beats them up, throws them in the elevator. They get their clothes, pretend as the guards in there, and that's like they go up, and they basically they saw like who they're going through, and I love that scene with the guy is like before he went up there to find the wife. This is the scene before that. And the old guy's like, oh, he's got blue movies. I'm like, blue movies? Like, Blu-ray? No, he's talking about pornos.
Yeah.
The old reels. And it turned out that's when I saw his friend, who actually was doing action movies and stuff. Or actually, no, what was it? The movie, the Test Him Out, they basically had an old black and white reel of him, basically, where he was like, the show that the rich guy, gets shown proof, and he's the guy, So he finds out his friend, or the guy who hates him, the black ninja, is in town. But he doesn't know that he's the one that killed his friend. He doesn't know that until after he goes there. So basically, skipping back up. Sorry, I'm going out of order. But going back to the main
Breathe. You're so excited.
I love this movie, dude. I guess said, man, it's just. For being someone I've never heard of, like I said, this is such a great movie. I don't know. I'm excited to see the sequels. You said the sequels are even better, but
yeah. And so the ending here with the film is like, you're bringing up a good point here with the fact that when you mentioned the blow darts and everything, because it's no exaggeration when you said it's 10 to 15 minutes of the opening movie out of a 90-minute film of just showing you what ninjas are. And so the end here, it comes full circle. You've got white ninja versus black ninja, no other stuff on screen. You've got the damsel in distress who they recognize, okay, it's the final battle. And the bad ninja says, basically you can go because it's like going to be an honorable fight, because he says he has samurai blood to him and it's, important to, live with honor, die with honor sort of thing. And they go to fight. But before that, you're right, blow darts. The katanas, the shurikens, you've got, every possible thing about ninjas that you might have forgotten from the opening 10, 15 minutes, you were definitely reminded of exist. And that's why this movie, I say, is culturally and historically significant. And I have joke when I say this, because every kid I knew at the time talked nonstop about this movie. They didn't care about, the evil land grab or any of that kind of crap. It was the different weapons, the outfits, the way they looked, the way the fights is, because the fight scenes are good. They're very solid. And a lot of people think, the Jason Bourne is the shit. It's like, it's not. You can't see anything. These looked very well done. Yes, it's ninja style, but people got to understand that the one at a time ninja style has not happened yet in American film. And when this film came out, you also had the Octagon, you had this. Sho Kosugi in a second film, in a sequel to this, which we'll talk about later, that film, in my opinion, is even better than this one. And it really kind of made him a superstar, his performance in these films. So much so that in 1984, he was in a show called, I think, The Master, which is kind of dopey, but it had Lee Van Cleef in it, a badass. He was the guy in so many Westerns, but he was also in Escape from New York as the guy not afraid of Snake Plissken, the guy in charge there. He plays a master ninja teaching some American guy to it. And it's like, for like a good 5, 6, 7 years, nothing but ninjas. And you and I have even covered American Ninja with Dudikoff, another Canon classic. So Canon hit a home run, I think, with this, trying to go cheap budget, introduce ninjas to the American audiences, is really successful. So for the final fight, which happens, what did you want to say about that?
The whole fight sequence toward the end, I said, this towards the end here is great. He's using the little explosive smoke bombs. That's what he's using. Yes. I love, the flashbangs he has, and he uses it to his advantage. And I gotta say, I kind of felt bad for some of these goons. I'm thinking that guy doesn't, especially in the main penthouse before this. Some of the guys hired for this, working for this guy, they're probably in their late 20s, man. And he's just killing them, going through. I'm like, oh my god, just for money, man. You're just gonna. I would at that point wait, this guy killed 14 out of 20 guys? Yeah, I'm out of here. But like I said, man, henchmen, these guys are going to be the dumbest of dumbest. Oh, man. But the fight scene towards the end there where they're fighting was actually, it was not as, it was kind of anticlimactic more than I thought it was going to be. They're fighting and he grabs the sword because the black ninja is going to kill him. And he grabs the sword with a hand. So he said that I'm thinking, where's the blood on his hand? And then first of all, I wouldn't trust this fucker. They use poison to tip swords. The way how dishonorable he is, yeah. But I love he went he just the main bad guy is ninja. Where are you? I know you're here, ninja. I just want to talk, ninja. I was like, come on. I thought he was gonna say ninja. But eventually, yeah, I think he did kill the main bad guy at the end, right? Or did he leave him live?
Well, if you watch it, he's definitely stabbed there, and then it kind of ends for the most part.
Not the black ninja, the rich guy. I thought he killed him.
No, I don't think so on that.
Yeah.
Well, look, here's the thing. I know you hadn't seen it. It was a good opportunity for us to kind of bring up another martial arts film because Kickin, it's not just martial arts, it's action films, but we really like them a lot. And we've covered ones that were considered popular, like The Raid or a few others. And it's hey, whatever works for you is great. But again, since the 80s is our favorite decade and we like to cover them, I think it was really, really important having, gone through the Chuck Norris films to kind of talk a little bit about the ninja craze because it was a real thing. It was definitely there. And it was very hot and popular. And, ninjas are around now. They don't have the sexy allure of something unknown back then. And it's what you call almost a perfect action movie. There's no boobs in it. There's not a lot of gratuitous cussing or language. So if you're a young kid watching it, it's enough of a spectacle where you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. But if you're an adult, it may have come across a little bit of a cheese factor, but it's, I don't want to say lighthearted. It's enough of an action film that just works on a lot of different levels, and it's all about ninja. I mean, you cannot get enough ninja out of this film, and it some people will say if you come from in music, the B.B. King style of playing guitar, that's less is more. A few notes, your phrasing, you have pauses, it's blues music. Of course, unless you're a real musician, you probably never heard of them because everything's electronic these days. Then you have the opposite end of the 80s, bigger, faster, louder, and that's Yngwie Malmsteen, where you play 10,000 notes where one note would do. And like Yngwie would say in an interview, people say less is more. Bullshit. More is more. Here, you get 10, 15 minutes of ninja action at the beginning, a good 10, 15 at the end. You get several beat downs of ninja and wannabe, thugs in this movie. High body count, high ninja count, just awesome fun count overall. I mean, I think it's fantastic. What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts on this film is like, if you're looking for a movie that with a nobody actor, to me, because I've never seen this guy in anything else other than this movie. I'll just say this: this turned out to be a much pleasant surprise than what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I think I've heard you, maybe you mentioned it or somebody else in our channel, and the commenters mentioned it a while back. Do Enter the Ninja in 1981 or like so yeah. I remember watching a trailer for it or something like that, and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. Then I actually sat down and watched it for tonight. I was like, yeah, I'll watch this. I was like, holy crap, this is actually a great movie. And like I said, it's Canon Films, which it's like we're getting a Chuck Norris movie, but we're getting Charlton Heston as a ninja. and as corny as that sounds, it works. It's like I would have loved to see Charlton Heston like as a ninja doing the martial art moves like this. It's like just the charming,
Yes. And Franco Nero has fun with it too. He definitely enjoys it. He's not sour and all that too. He's stern when he needs to be, but you can tell he's like I say, he does bring a certain screen presence to it with his gaze.
And I gotta say this: whenever you add ninjas to a movie, it can get critically better. Planet of the Apes with ninjas, man. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Flex is talking about how he likes boobs in action movies. Don't disagree about that at all. But this movie's tasteful. Nice to cockfighting and other stuff.
As long as they're on a woman, I don't care.
Well, here's the thing. One of the reasons why we did it 10, and I'll just say is I'm glad you liked the movie. Flash, thanks for showing up too. I'm glad you enjoyed it. At some point soon, we are going to. No, Johnny, this is not a goof.
No, this is a great movie.
Johnny, I'd say things tongue in cheek. Johnny's listened to a lot of stuff we've had. This movie, Enter the Ninja, is part of a trilogy, and the reason why we're talking about it is because this movie, as a kid in the early '80s, really jump-started the ninja craze in the United States. Because of this movie and a couple others, ninja movie. Canon said, we're going to introduce ninjas to the United States. Let's make a movie out of ninja. Here we go. And they did it. Chuck Norris had one in the Octagon in 1980. Those are the prominent ones. So from about let's say 80 to 85, 87, nothing but ninjas. The whole subculture of ninjas is definitely worth exploring, just like we did with, with Rad, the BMX subculture, and skateboarding and other stuff that was definitely a thing in the 80s. Doctor, we hadn't even talked about another Canon classic, which is, of course, Breakin', the Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. But for me, again, this movie, go see it, but the sequel is even better. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight with Eglinton from I Love Comics. Best movie sequels.
I got to say, this movie, I like it better than American Ninja. Even though I did love American Ninja, Michael Dudikoff, I felt this was much better.
I agree with you, and while I do like both, I feel that the American Ninja one with Dudikoff is like an Americanized version of this one. This one feels a little European and a little different. Shot on location, low budget. It's got a nice little feel, and I want to say, and again, I would never condone anybody doing anything quote unquote illegally or say you need to go surfing or pirating any of that stuff. I do believe is free, maybe with ads on regular YouTube. So the link is out there. You can watch it in full, I believe, unedited. I think that's how you watched it. I happen to have we both have personal copies that we've had for a while. So yeah, you guys, if you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. Let us know what you think. And can't wait to do the sequel. The sequel's a hell of a lot better than this film. I'm pumped for that.
I gotta ask Raggedy, who just joined us. Raggedy, have you ever seen this before? Enter the Ninja, 1981.
Yes.
Frank Nero. This is really good. And I can say it's not the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes, whatever his name was. This to me, I felt this is a better movie than what we got for G.I. Joe. As far as if they're gonna make another movie with just Snake Eyes, or I think it's what his name is. You're saying? Yeah, I don't know, but I gotta say this this is a low budget, but like I said, for Canon, they were like, I don't know. Would have been better with Chuck Norris or with Frank Nero. Frank Nero, like I said, he's got that masculinity. He just going around and just basically kicking the crap out of people. And it's always in self-defense. It's not, like I said, like Chuck Norris is a thing too. He does. I think he does like in his early movies. I think he does more moves, but like as you notice as he got later, he did less kicks. especially like the late '80s. He was like, and everything was it.
He wasn't young even
Yeah,
then.
no, even then. But I said like this was actually really good. I having someone in here that's not which felt like a Chuck Norris movie, but starring a guy who looked like Charlton Heston. Like I said, I was actually pleasantly surprised, and it has a similar themes. Yeah, similar things. Octagon, brother versus brother. We're not really brothers, but it's like white ninja versus black ninja. It's like, and yeah, it's a basic. And I remember that, and I remember I was reading up on this before we went live. I was like, apparently critics were saying like, oh, it's got horrible camera takes, and it's the choreography is bad, and the guy doesn't know how to blend genres. It's a romance ninja movie, it's like drama. It's like, dude,
no, it's not.
I thought, well, yeah, because of romance, because he wounded
romance.
He banged his best friend's wife.
Allegedly. You decide.
Well, she crawls in bed with her negligee. He looks over and he's already in bed, and then he just turns the light off. And that's it. So
again, European sensibility, sir.
Yes. But I love this is such a random movie. It's like it's karate and stuff and ninja stuff and cockfights. It's just because they're in the Philippines. So it's just.
It's what they do.
I never would expect. I was just laughing. I look because his best friend is I think his name.
He looks like James Caan, by the way. I don't know if that helps or not.
He looks like James Caan, but he sounds like Charlton Heston, where the main guy looks like Charlton Heston.
He's got the Charlton Heston tooth thing going on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, this was a pleasant surprise. And the main guy, Christopher George, who he was in some movies. I think he was with John Wayne. Him and John Wayne were best friends, up until John Wayne's death.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that guy is a great villain. I would have loved to see him in more movies like that. He's a perfect spoiled rich Chuck Nichols. Like, I want him dead. Why is it so hard to kill one man? It's like, and he's like, hey, you want to work for me? I'll buy you. How much money I'll pay you? It's like, and he's just like,
it's so 80s. Buy me the best ninja.
He's like, do you like my new was it mobile or what was it? Life mobile or and the little German guy, the hook, he's looking over, he's like, yeah, I like it, but which one though? He's looking at the girls doing the aquatic or the ballet in the water. He's
indoor pool with a bunch of babes.
He's like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm having a bad. It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you're having a bad. He looks at me, what? And the guy is such a dick, but he plays a perfect billionaire role, kind of like almost like a Christopher. If you had an evil Robert Redford.
Well, when I redo Chin of the Week, Franco Nero's was already on the short list because of this movie. So, yeah, he's got a great little stash chin combo, too. Yeah. All right, guys. So, be on the lookout here soon for a link from, I believe Angleton will send it out as we prepare for our Top 10 Tuesdays. Tonight's topic, instead of a year of movies, it's going to be best movie sequels. So, we've got our list. We're ready to go. We're going to sign off now. Doctor, I'm glad you liked it. Glad for everybody showing up. Raggedy, Johnny, Flash, everybody listening. Man, what a great film. Okay, guys, thanks for listening. As always, stay extreme and have a good night.
Cheers, guys.
Good night.
Watch out for